Okay, so looking at the free response we left off with last week, Jenna is studying texting habits, and there's a claim right from the start, right? It says a recent study reported that high school students spend an average of 94 minutes per day texting. So that's what we're going to use for our claim value, right? Jenna claims that the average for the students at her large high school is greater than that, okay? So part A says to collect the data, she gets a sample size of 32. That's all they tell us. Roman numeral 1, or it's not really a Roman numeral, right? Says state her population of interest. So it's all students at Jenna's large high school. I don't need that apostrophe. All right. So some of you were wondering how we show our work for these. I'm going to do my best to try to type this one out. And we just do the best we can with the symbols and things like that, and we can use the calculator. But I feel like most of the questions that we're looking at here, we can type things out. We don't have to draw a normal curve or graph a histogram or anything like that. And after looking at that webinar that dropped this week, I think it's likely that, this is the kind of stuff you're going to see on your exam. I think it's going to be like 2 free response questions. Maybe one of them is a little bit more investigative task-ish. So maybe that's, or maybe it's 2 investigative tasks, but that truthfully would be too long. Those usually, they budget 25 minutes for that. So maybe 1 investigative task and 1 classic free response question. So we got her population of interest. Just read that right from the text there. Name and describe a sampling method. So you don't want to just simply say here, take a simple random sample. This is typically what I'll have students do. She should take an SRS. You have to explain what that means, right? So if we say she should use a simple random sample, and I know I always write SRS, but maybe just to be safe, to get full credit, don't assume somebody knows what that means. It's pretty common abbreviation, but she should get a list of all students in the school. Number the students that doesn't say how many students they have, 1 through n. Okay, we could use randint, or random number generator. Until we have 32 different numbers. That's important. We can't have any sampling with replacement here. We can't pick the same student twice. Okay, these 32 numbers correspond to the students she will sample. Okay, so like my basic litmus test usually is, I try to see like if somebody were going to try to implement this, would they be able to do it? And I think it's pretty clearly laid out. I mean, if you wanted to specify that n is the number of students in the school, right? Okay, but that is describing to somebody how a simple random sample would be taken, right? Everybody in the whole population is numbered. Everybody has the same chance. Every sample of size 32 has the same chance of being selected. So for part B, based on the sample of 32 students, Jenna calculated a mean of 96.5 and a sample standard deviation of 6.3. Assume all conditions for inference are met. Well, that's super. Okay, so we don't have to go through SRS and normality. We know we had normality easily here anyway with 32, but when they say assume all conditions were met, that's really helpful to us running our test. At the significance of alpha 0.05, did the data provide convincing significant evidence complete an appropriate inference procedure. So part of that procedure would be the conditions for inference, but they told us that's satisfied. So first thing I'm going to do is say that mu equals the true mean number Right, so I've stated my parameter of interest. That's step one. I don't have to do my conditions for inference. So I'm going to state my null and alternate hypothesis. This is a place where students will go sideways on me sometimes. The null hypothesis is just that mu equals 94 minutes. That was the claim from the start. Okay? Go back up and look. What does Jenna believe? She believes it's higher than that. Okay? So a couple of common mistakes here, greater than 94 minutes. A couple of the common mistakes I'll see here. People will use these numbers down here. They'll use 96.5 in here. It has no business being in there. We're making an inference about population. This is a sample statistic. It's our X bar. Okay, so it doesn't go in there. All right, so there's my null and my alternate hypothesis. Okay, remember our mantra, always use T for means. If these are means, if this is an average that we're testing, then we're using a t-test. Okay, so we have t-test. I think we can write the formula for t. I'm just going to write it like this. I'm going to write t equals statistic. I'm going to take it right off my formula sheet. Minus parameter divided by standard deviation. And I just take it right off my formula sheet. And now I'm going to use my calculator. Okay, so we're going to run this t-test on the calculator. So this is stat. We go to test. And it's just number 2 for t-test. Anytime we're testing means, it's a this one clearly is a hypothesis test rather than a confidence interval because we don't have to estimate. We know what the number is. So what do we have here? We don't have the data. We have the stats. They gave us the actual statistics that were collected. Okay. The null hypothesis is that students test for 94 minutes per day. The X bar, the sample mean that she found, was 96.5. And the standard deviation that was calculated for us was 6.3 minutes. And was 32. And we definitely want a greater than test, right? Right tail. So I get a t of 2.24, p-value 0.016. 2.24, is that right? Yep. P-value 0.016. Okay. So we would, for alpha 0.05, which is what they asked us, we will reject H0. Okay. We have significant evidence. Alright, and that is it. We didn't have to do the conditions for inference. A little bit easier, but it would have been SRS. It doesn't say that she took a random sample. It says she'll take a sample, right? But we told her she ought to take a similar sample. So all this you could type up if you're worried about, how you could enter it for me to look at it. That's fine. You can type it like that. Just do the best that you can. Don't have to worry about uploading files. Some of you have been doing that, which is also fine. Okay.